wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
We are the Breakfast Club. Let's get in some front page news and some quick sports last night. The NBA playoffs are amazing. I mean, these are going to the wire. The Nuggets beat OKC last night, 119-107. They tied the series 3-3, so there will be a Game 7, and my Knicks play tonight.
Yeah, that's anybody's game. Game 7 with the Nuggets and OKC. You can't play with the Nuggets. They're former champions, man. Anytime that goddamn big-ass joker on the court,
that's right.
You can't play with them.
That's right, and you can't play with Boston tonight because even though Tatum is out, they still got a strong team and a long bench. Pause. Morning, baby.
Good morning, y'all. All right, so let's get into this front page news. A judge in Wisconsin is pleading not guilty to helping a man evade immigration authorities. Now, Judge Hannah Dugan, she was in court yesterday. She was indicted on 2 counts of obstructing a federal agency and concealing an undocumented immigrant who had a criminal hearing in her courtroom. Now, Dugan was arrested by the FBI back in April. A federal grand jury indicted her earlier this week, and her trial is set to begin on July 21st. Now, according to the FBI, the man she was allegedly trying to help was previously deported in 2013, but he re-entered the U.S. illegally and was later accused of battery. Immigration officials had planned to arrest him after his court hearing, but agents say someone took photos of the arrest team and showed it to the judge while she was in court. And when that hearing ended, witnesses say the judge told the man to follow her and led him and his attorney out of the courtroom through a private door to avoid agents. Now, the man was later spotted in the courtroom. He ran from agents, but he was caught outside after a brief foot chase. Now, Dugan's attorney...
Where do you think he was going?
They were surrounded. He wasn't going to get far. Dugan's attorney said she's innocent and she was acting within her role as a judge. Her legal team is trying to get the case dismissed, arguing she has immunity and the arrest violates the Constitution.
Did they have a relationship? Like, was that like her landscaper or something? Her boyfriend?
Up,
she just felt like a good Samaritan? Like, what was it?
I think it was just she wanted to be a good Samaritan.
But you can't do that, right? You can't know that they're going to pick him up and then say sneak out the back door, because if it would have been anybody else, they'd have got locked up. But
this sets a precedent, because when do you arrest a sitting judge in her courtroom? So that's what everybody's up in arms about, is that she's been arrested by the FBI. And so if she's convicted, she's facing 2 charges, 1 felony, 1 misdemeanor, and that is up to 6 years in prison.
That is interesting, because I'm just sitting there trying to think, what was her plan? Like, where was she trying to get this individual to go? And was she would abusing her power be the right word? Being that she knows she's the judge, that she probably was thinking they're not going to arrest me if I stand in the way.
She probably didn't think she was going to get caught. She said, go out the back door. Yeah. How'd he go? I just let him out this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just let them through a private exit. Okay, so, and then I know you guys have been covering the Newark air traffic controller situation. Yeah. And so there is a second air traffic control facility in the U.S. that experienced about a 90-second communications outage this week. It happened on Monday at the Denver Air Route Traffic Control Center, which manages airspace over Colorado and nearby states. Now, during this outage, as many as 20 pilots over the Denver airspace could not talk to air traffic controllers. Frank McIntosh, he is the Deputy Chief Operating Officer for the FAA. He testified yesterday at the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee that one of the controllers' main radio frequencies failed. Then they switched to a backup, and that one failed too for nearly 2 minutes. He was grilled by Rep. Hank Johnson about the shortage of air traffic controllers, and let's listen to that exchange.
How many air traffic controllers have left the system since January 20th of 2025?
I'm not aware of how many have retired.
You don't know, but so could it have been 100?
It could have been 1. It could have been 1,000.
It could have been 5,000.
No.
Maybe 2,500?
No.
2,000?
I don't believe so, sir. I track how many air traffic controllers are in the system.
Well, tell us how many have left their jobs since January 20th.
I can't tell you that exact number, sir,
but
I would be happy to come back.
All right, so that exchange took place, and that's after a news station in Denver, Denver 7, investigates. They're reporting that the outage lasted 6 minutes and not the 90 seconds that the FAA is reporting. But 6 minutes, 2 minutes without...
That's scary.
It's too much.
There's not enough sense of urgency around this situation for me. Like, either close Newark Airport down for the time being. Or
that was Denver.
That was
Denver.
That was Denver.
Oh, because I saw that happen in Newark the other day, too.
Yeah, that happened in Newark the other day. Yeah. That happened in Denver. It's just scary. You're flying. But I wonder if this happened before and now we're just hearing about it more and more and more, or is this Totally new.
Why aren't the airlines raising hell? Because then when something bad happens with one of the airlines, they're going to get the blame. So why aren't they
They're
raising
gonna
hell?
get sued. Absolutely.
And they're also going to lose money, though. So it's all about money at the end of the day. So anyway,
And
there's
then
about
those people with jobs at those airports. Like,
yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That too. So,
All right. Well, that's front page news. We'll see you next hour, Mimi.
All right.
And everybody else, get it off your chest. Before that, I also want to tell everybody that engineers have been gone on strike this morning at NJ Transit. It's halting the nation's third largest commuter line. So if you live in New York and you're trying to get to New Jersey to go to work, or you live in New Jersey and you try to get into New York, there is a strike. Give yourself extra time. You might need to work virtual today. They're saying it's going to be nasty and a mess. They're saying it's going to inconvenience about 100,000 people plus. So just want to give people the updates with that. All right, get it off your chest. 800-585-1051. If you need to vent, hit us up now. It's The Breakfast Club. Good morning. We are The Breakfast Club. Let's get back in some front page news. Again, the Nuggets beat the OKC 119-107. They tied the series 3-3. And yes, my Knicks played tonight. So hopefully we can finish off these Celtics at home. What's up, Mimi?
What's up, y'all? All right, so let's jump back into this. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the man tapped by Trump and House Republicans to lead the country's top public health agencies, he testified before Congress this week, and he made one thing clear, that he doesn't think Americans should take medical advice from him. At a House Appropriations Committee hearing earlier this week, Kennedy was there to explain why he wants to slash the budgets for major health agencies like the CDC, the NIH, and the FDA. But things took a turn when lawmakers asked him a simple question about vaccines, whether he would vaccinate his own kids against measles. Let's listen to what he had to say.
For measles, probably for measles, what I would say is my opinions about vaccines are irrelevant. I don't want to seem like I'm being evasive.
Yeah.
But I don't think people should be taking medical advice from me.
Right. No, I got that. And I'm not asking you to give them medical advice, but would you vaccinate your child for measles?
If I answer that question directly, that it will seem like I'm giving advice to other people, and I don't want to be doing that. I want people to make
But that's kind of your jurisdiction, because CDC.
I mean, that's an honest answer, because he's not a doctor. Like, and you don't have to be a doctor to be the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services.
No, you don't. But if somebody asks you a question, will you? They just want your opinion. Like somebody says, do you give your kids whatever? Yes.
Especially, though, because he's telling other people to take vitamins.
Right.
But he's getting his kids the vaccination.
Right.
So there's that's what the big problem is.
So he never answered the question?
He never answered the question. He also dodged the question about whether or not he should, if you should give your kids like a chicken pox and all those other vaccines. So, but this is coming as the U.S. is facing the worst measles outbreak in years. And then he went on to claim that the CDC is doing better than any other country at handling it, which is very, very questionable. And so moving right along, we're talking about tariffs and Walmart. So if you're a Walmart shopper, get ready. Prices on some everyday items are about to go up this month. The company says they are feeling the squeeze from the rising tariffs on imported goods like electronics, toys, strollers, and even some food items, and they cannot absorb all the extra costs. So they're going to pass that on to the consumer. The tariffs, they're, of course, part of Trump's trade policies, which products from countries like China, Costa Rica, and Peru. Now, even though some of the tariffs have been lowered, the remaining ones are still pushing up the cost of goods, and that means higher prices for you at the checkout. Now, Walmart says the biggest price change will hit late May and into June. So items, again, strollers, mattresses, toys, mostly made overseas, those will likely cost more. The retail giant said it's doing everything to keep prices low, especially on groceries. But the trade war is hitting the retail industry very, very hard. So,
wow.
Yeah. And so how many of y'all have noticed if you say something on your phone and then you get on like Instagram or Facebook,
all the damn time?
Yes.
It will show you the ad or it will show you exactly what you were just talking about.
Forever now. That's
so
crazy.
if that is happening to you, if you've ever felt like your iPhone was listening in a little too closely, you are not alone. And now you may be owed some money because Apple has agreed to pay a $95 million settlement over claims that Siri was secretly recording conversations and sharing them with third-party companies.
We should have bended that. I know you couldn't trust that goddamn Siri.
Listen, they say that led to targeted ads for things like restaurants, clothes, whatever, more. The lawsuit, it was filed by a California woman and other consumers, and they said that Siri was listening even when it wasn't supposed to. So
She a legend.
yeah. Well, so now.
So what happened? Like, is Siri gonna go to jail? What's going to
Siri
happen?
gonna go to jail.
Siri's not going to go to jail, but you can get a check. So I'm about to tell you how you can get a check. So Apple, of course, is denying any wrongdoing, but if you owned a Siri-enabled device, so that means an iPhone, an iPad, an Apple TV, anything that has Siri from 2014 to 2024, you are eligible to file the claim. So you can get up to $20 per device, up to 5 devices, so $100, because it's like $95 million. You times that by like 1 million people, it's only going to be $20. But if you are eligible, check your inbox. There should be an email, and it will be from Lopez Voice Assistant Class Action Settlement. It may also come as a postcard. There will be a claim ID and a code to file.
I got one.
Did you really?
Yeah, I swear.
Jump in the lawsuit so you can get your $5.
It says, it can tell you, it says if you own it says Lopez Voice Assistant Class Action Settlement. If you own the purchase of Siri Enable, I got it. It says my legal name. It says my identification code. And it shows the paperwork to do
Jump in so you can get your $5.
Yep.
$20. Hello.
Go ahead, Aubrey O'Day.
Yep. But
Get
see,
some little gas money.
if you don't get a code, you can still file. You just gotta probably Google it, put in new claim, and then you have to upload your receipt and proof of purchase. But you can still get it. The deadline to file is July 2nd.
Oh, you gotta have a receipt.
No, if you got the email, so you don't have to have a receipt. But if you don't
bet.
have the email, you just have to upload a receipt or like your device info, probably like your number on the back, your serial number or something.
Thank you, Mimi. Now, you also have a podcast that you're doing, correct?
Correct.
So Altadena with love.
Now, break down this podcast and what made you want to do this podcast.
So To Altadena with Love is like my love letter to the community of Altadena, which is right next to Pasadena. Most people have heard of Pasadena, but not a lot of people had heard of Altadena, which is literally right next to Pasadena. And the community of Altadena is was a historic Black neighborhood that was burnt in the Eaton fire when, in January when California was on fire. I went there as a journalist just to cover the story. And when I got there, I realized the devastation of the area. And what I realized was everyone looked like me. And these were a lot of older Black families that lived in multi-generational families that lost everything. And then when I started doing more research, I realized that this town existed because a lot of these families had moved there in the 1960s and 50s, and they were redlined there. And they lost not only just their homes, but their community. And when you talk to them, you find out that it was just more than it was more than a structure, right? It was a thriving, everyday community that was no longer there. And everybody, no matter what, though, when they lost everything, they were looking out for each other, right? They were not worried about, like, how am I going to survive? They were like, you know what, we've got to take care of our elderly, and we've got to make sure that this community comes back the way that it once was. So for me, I wanted to document that. I wanted to talk to all the people, as many as people that I could, to talk to them and find out what this community truly means and how we can share this information with the masses.
I wonder how recovery efforts are going. Like, is it slow because it was a Black community? Like,
well, it's funny you say that because I did a bonus episode. So in episode 6, I talked to a council member, and he says it's funny because when Trump visited California during the wildfires, he went to go see Malibu and he went to go see the Palisades. He did not come to Altadena.
damn.
And so, it's like the rhetoric behind Altadena was that it's a historic Black neighborhood, and somehow it was skipped over. He didn't come see it. But the recovery process is underway, but there's still a lot of insurance things and
insurance companies not covering, it's too expensive. People didn't have insurance, lapse insurance.
All
they
of
didn't have
those things.
Insurance that covers certain particular fire
And what you have to remember is, like, I spoke to someone in episode 2 whose house, he paid $33,000 for his house. His house is worth $2.1 million now. And so when you buy your house for that much, and it's now when you need the insurance money, it doesn't cover that much. And so now you're stuck trying to figure out how to pay for that.
So they only want to give him $33,000. They don't want to give him what the house is actually worth.
They want to give him probably about $500,000, but the house was worth $2.1 million. Wow. So what do you do? But I just, in this series, I wanted to humanize this community. I think when you can identify and see yourself in a community, you can identify and understand that these are more than just structures. It was $9,000 9,000 structures burned. But when you realize that this was Willie Jackson, who grew up with Frank Shaw, so who, died, or Victor Shaw, who died holding a water hose, and you can understand why he wanted to save his home, So he tells us that story in episode 1, and so it was really just a labor of love. I wanted the world to understand what this community is going through, and I wanted the world to understand that Altadena is, it was California's first Black community. People think South Central or Baldwin Hills, but it was California's first Black middle-class neighborhood.
How can people help if they want to help, particularly to that area, if they want to help their own people in that area? How can people help? Is there a possible way? Is there a site?
If people want to help, there is, I would say, go to heydena.org. It is a community organization that is literally raising money to help individual families come back to the area and preserve the area the way that it was. Because a lot of the people are worried that people are going to come in and make that community something that it wasn't. They're already predatory buyers and lenders trying to come in and build high rises. And it's a town. It's a small town. And people are already buying up property and trying to build things. And so they're trying to make sure that they can keep it the way that it was.
It's crazy when you see stuff like that. It makes you wonder, was it a coincidence? You know what I mean? Like when you see them, wipe out a whole community and then, want to build high rises and make it hard for the people who lived in that community to come back. You just wonder, was it a coincidence?
Right.
And it's funny you say that too, Charlotte, because in episode 3, we talk about the disparities of when the alarm systems went out. West Altadena was where the Black people were redlined to. East Altadena is where the white people lived. When you look at the disparities, that neighborhood, West Altadena, they didn't get the notifications until 3:30 in the morning.
Wow.
But the east side, they got them at 7:30 p.m. in enough time.
Give them enough time to prepare to get their stuff out of there.
Wow. I talked to a lady who said at 4:45 a.m. she woke up walking through flames trying to get out of her home.
Wow.
And she said she could only muster up the strength because she didn't want her 87-year-old father to find her in the home, But the alarms, the systems didn't go off, and so there's a lot of investigation that still needs to go on.
Now, how can they hear more about your podcast and really dive into it?
Absolutely, you can go to outatdenawithlove.com for more information. You can download it wherever you get your podcasts. And please just listen to it. I think it is storytelling at its finest. It's not in my words. These are the community. These are their stories. They're telling their stories. I introduce some, a little bit of educational impact before it, but then they come in and they tell you their stories in their own words of what happened. So it is, as I say, the art of storytelling. It takes you there. It brings you right into that moment, what they were feeling, how they remember their community, and what happened that night to them.
Wow.
Mimi Brown, give me your Instagram and Twitter and all of that good stuff.
Yes, my Instagram, Mimi Brown TV at all socials.
All right. Thank you, Mimi, so much.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.